When I told her that I wasn't compromising and that I should feel bad for forcing her to repress her wants, she stated that she wanted an open relationship. We have been dating for 10 months and are both 27 years old. Bringing in other people, MMF, MFFF, and so forth, is high on my bisexual girlfriend Lucy's list of kinks and desires, which she has always been honest with me about. In contrast, I'm rather vanilla. When she confided in me about them, I never chastised her or guilt-tripped her. However, I always made it plain to Lucy that they were a little more than I could provide, and that I would never feel at ease involving another guy in particular. Lucy said she would be pleased to set up an MFF threesome with another lady for us around 6 months into our relationship. At first, I was a little worried about this because I didn't want it to be used against me as a negotiating chip later on. For this reason, I kept checking in with Lucy to make sure she was certain that it was something she wanted and that we would be doing it together. It was shortly after the threesome. Lucy recommended that we go to a garden party together, so we went. But we just played together. Additionally, she recommended getting in touch with and meeting other couples from the scene. According to what I understood, we would be making friends with couples who were also experimenting with garden parties and the like, as well as with individuals who could go to similar events with us as friends. We used an app to find another couple, and we went out for drinks with them a few times. Lucy contacted me earlier tonight and threw me a curveball. She claimed that she had been dissatisfied and uninspired by our sexual life for the last few months. I was completely unprepared for this. I was aware that Lucy was more daring, and I felt I had been managing this. The sex party, the MFF threesome, and conversing with another couple quite well. This realization saddened me, but I tried my best to ask Lucy what she thought was missing and what we might do to make things right. She wanted us to try MMFF non-monogamy, which became clear after some questioning, engaging in games of truth or dare with them. Ideally some kind of trading, etc., but I simply can't picture myself doing any of those things since they would make me uncomfortable. They, nevertheless, are very significant to Lucy. I asked Lucy if there was anything else we could do to reach a compromise. Toys were brought up, but it was clear that this was only a sideshow. At one point, Lucy became a little sour with me, implying that I wasn't being receptive enough, and asking how I knew I wouldn't agree with her request. That despite the fact that she is the one causing all of this and is well aware of my boundaries, the situation is unjust and I refuse to make any concessions. After some back and forth, it finally occurred to us both that the relationship was coming to an end. I told Lucy that although the discovery wounded me, I was still grateful that she spoke up, and that if something is important to her, she should do it on her own and not compromise. Lucy started crying at this point, and kept asking if this was the end, if the talk wasn't going the way she had hoped, and so forth. After deciding to have another conversation about it later, we said goodnight. I just got off the phone offer, so I'm writing this now. It's not very pleasant to learn that your lover has been dissatisfied and unenthusiastic, therefore I'm very devastated. I don't believe I'll ever contemplate the scenario she wants us to engage in, therefore I guess this is probably the end of Lucy and me. Even if she agrees to bury it, there's a chance it may resurface later. Lucy has been messaging me to beg me to make a compromise ever since I began writing this. The subject of compromise continues coming up, despite my best efforts to convey that the boundaries she is asking me to compromise on are difficult and would probably result in my being wounded. Unsure about what to do. Any guidance on how to handle this and whether anything can be saved without going too far would be greatly appreciated. Regards. Correct. I appreciate everyone's remarks, and I believe it's very obvious that Lucy and I are done. Tonight, I'll talk to her and let her know that we're done. First update. I wrote about a problem with my girlfriend, Lucy, a few weeks ago in another sub. She was pressuring me to attempt non-monogamy practices that I wasn't comfortable with, and said I had to make concessions when I resisted. Although it was evident from the responses on my article that she and I were sexually mismatched, I secretly hoped that there was some way to save the relationship. Shortly after our first chat, Lucy apologized to me after I told her why her behavior was inappropriate, and went against my limits even though I had repeatedly told her no. She recommended that we separate and make lists of the things we would and would not feel comfortable doing, then look for areas where we might compromise or find common ground. It made sense. We exchanged our lists the other day. Lucy was obviously unhappy with mine, since I essentially disqualified myself from participating in all of the E&EM, ethnic non-monogamy events she recommended. She didn't appear to be that interested in toys, even though I made it plain that I was prepared to engage in monogamous activities from her list that she liked. That's what she stated over the phone, sighing and sounding obviously disappointed. Here, I'm the one losing out? I don't actually receive anything, but you get to keep everything you want to do. Underline dress 5215 is what it is. But it's okay. I can just hold my desires in my mind and repress them. Her implication that I was being naive or self-centered for refusing to compromise on my boundaries really annoyed me. So I questioned why my willingness to do the monogamous activity she described didn't seem to qualify as meeting her halfway. I found it strange that it must be impromptu and that I want my partner to enjoy it as well. I am unable to abruptly alter my appreciation of a certain sexual action or our attitude about it. I informed Lucy that it was she who, a few weeks earlier, told me in very scathing terms that our sexual life was boring and unfulfilling for her, and that the possibilities for resolving this were obviously somewhat limited, even after our list comparison exercise, even if I'm open to trying some monogamous stuff. I informed her that I now worry about if I would ever be able to satisfy my partner sexually. Will she eventually become resentful or cheat on me? Swirling in my head, and that I would much benefit from some sort of confirmation that these anxieties were unfounded or that we could resolve this. She hit back right away, asking, well, what about me, but what about all I have to give up? That truly got to me, and it brought to mind our earlier talk in which she had consistently pushed against my boundaries, essentially demonstrating no consideration for my sentiments. I quickly said goodbye and hung up on her because I could feel my temper rising and knew that a yelling fight would only make matters worse. She bombarded me with texts before bed, expressing her displeasure with the circumstances and her desire for me to feel more guilty due to all she now had to repress and keep in her mind. She said that she felt undervalued since she had to suppress her sexual urges in order to maintain the relationship. I felt pretty uneasy about this. Why in the world would someone feel guilty about not wanting to jeopardize their mental health in order to satisfy their partner's sexual desires? That I must thank her for this terrible fear of the relationship I'm in now. I could understand not wanting to participate in E&M. If Lucy and I were in a lifeless bedroom, or if I was totally closed up to attempting new things. I have previously apologized to her for feeling as though she was losing out, but it is really rather awful to imply that maintaining sexual boundaries is something for which I must express regret. My thoughts are scattered everywhere. Perhaps naively I thought that by comparing our lists and working with the overlap between them, we could save our relationship, but in reality it has only served to highlight how sexually incompatible we are, and her handling of the situation has really irritated me. Like in my previous piece, I get the impression that she doesn't really care about how I feel and is only trying to get what she wants this time through pathetic efforts at guilt-tripping. This time, I don't believe I can ignore the obvious. I really care for Lucy, but I detest the way she consistently undermines and pushes me in this way, as well as her overall disregard for my emotions and my identity. Stuck in the tundra, she's trying to manipulate you into getting what she wants, was the response OP gave to the comments. This is a big red flag to leave. She has stated unequivocally that she wants this regardless of how you feel and that she is doing you a favor by holding back. She will succumb to temptation after just one unpleasant altercation. It's debatable if she will tell you, but it's probably going to happen. She is more interested in experimenting with you as a safety net than she is in establishing a committed relationship. Save yourself further suffering and heartache. FR33 ad speechist. To be honest, she most likely already has someone in mind for this. Well, to give you some background, Lucy is really interested in playing with other couples in a scenario similar to MMFF, but I'm not, and she was quite clear when she told me that she only wanted us to do this as a pair. I don't want to investigate MMFF, of course. However, I don't think this is a cover for her to cheat on me behind my back. That's the last thing I know. Nevertheless, it's clear that the damage has been done since. Based on our numerous chats, it's clear that, until I give in, our sex life will always be dull and unfulfilling for her. Furthermore, I don't want to be in a relationship where my spouse makes it obvious that they're content with our sexual life, let alone expecting me to be appreciative or even sorry for it. Stuck in the tundra, she seems to be either poly or interested in adopting the swinger/poly lifestyle. It's acceptable if you have a firm no. It's also okay that she wants to. It could just render you incompatible. When monogamous people attempt to be poly, and vice versa, it frequently results in a great deal of pain and hurt for all parties. I hope the best for you in anything you do. Update 2: Lucy and I are no longer together. Yesterday I texted her the news, telling her that we needed to speak over the phone first. However, she demanded that I just text her if we were breaking up, and then confirm over the phone. She was crying uncontrollably, and insisted that everything had been a huge misunderstanding, that she was sorry for her actions, that she would never hurt me again, and that she was content with our relationship. Hearing her so upset was really difficult, but I refused to back down. Since she had consistently shown interest in the EM activities she wished to undertake from a young age, I thought that she was reversing her prior statements and downplaying their significance, and hence cannot be written off as fleeting thoughts. I informed her that, although I was grateful for her apology, the relationship was irreparably damaged, and I couldn't be in a relationship with someone with whom I am obviously sexually incompatible. Even if this was for the best, it still hurts. I'm letting Lucy and I have some space. We will ultimately need to come together to work things out, and perhaps clear the air because we have a trip planned, and I have some of her belongings at my house. I will need to be tough and make sure I don't give in. I appreciate you listening to me and giving me advice. It has great significance. The next scenario is that my girlfriend wants me to go to her company's Christmas party, which means I'll have to mingle with 2 men she had sex with, but they still call her names and make jokes about it. My girlfriend, F27, is M31. They have been organizing their annual business Christmas party for almost 2.5 years. Employees and their wives, who are optional but ostensibly desired, are asked to stay overnight, eat dinner, and celebrate. Open bar, etc. Due to a business obligation last year and the fact that we were still a relatively new couple the year before, I was unable to attend the previous festivities. She works for a major worldwide recruitment firm, and each year, an office in a different location hosts, and those who are not from that area often stay in an upscale hotel that the company has reserved. They are in the process of verifying the total number of guests, and she'd like me to go. Just so you know, she informed me at her first work Christmas party before we started dating that we are extremely open and communicate well. As a sort of bucket list adventure, she went to an after party in one of the guys' hotel rooms after a few drinks and had a threesome with 2 males from her workplace. I've told her that I'd like to pass on it after giving it some thought, but I'm completely fine with her going it alone. According to her, it's crucial for her career since it improves her reputation, allows her to interact with coworkers from different areas, allows her to mingle with senior management, and almost all of her coworkers try. Since then, we have been fighting all week, and I have been accused of being immature, embarrassing her, and not advancing her career because I have never gone to any of her prior work functions. To be honest, I don't believe any of this. She had already done it before we met. We definitely have different opinions about sex. For me, it has always been something unique, but for her, it is only a little enjoyable. Since we've learnt a lot from one another, this isn't a problem and has really benefited us. Even the fact that she continues to work with these 2 men makes me feel at ease. Although I am aware that she has had many more sexual partners than I have, she has always seen casual sex as a little fun when she was single, and I know in her heart that it wasn't significant. It's one thing to accept a past sexual history. Everyone has the right to have sex. That's okay with me. Socializing at the same party with my girlfriend and the 2 men who have had intimate relations with her feels like a different core than the past, even though it is the past. I feel uncomfortable and weird about it. Saying I'm not going would be simpler, I thought. She responded in the affirmative when asked if anybody else at work was aware, as one or both of the males later circulated rumors and engaged in teasing and nicknames about it. It doesn't bother me, she remarked. She is the kind of person who would own her confidence. I feel like a finance bro there. It's challenging to consider shaking hands, striking up a conversation, and eating at the same table as men who have slept with my girlfriend. For background, we have recently been discussing marriage, are in a good place, and hardly ever argue. Having children, etc. enjoy each other's company, and don't want to do anything that could damage their relationship or their career. I wrote about my predicament on another subreddit, but I think this one might be more beneficial, AIO. It turns out that online strangers can be a great help. Comments to which the op responded. I'm just dreaming. But I genuinely believe you need to work through this. Perhaps you can avoid going this year, but if she continues to work for this company, her reputation will suffer if her husband or fiancé never attends a work function. I believe it would be better for you to just move on and realize that it's more of a mental construct. Maybe if you tried not to think of it as socializing, it would help. She basically has to attend these kinds of events, so your actions or lack of attendance do affect her. She is not requesting that you become best friends with these men, she is only asking that you be courteous for a brief period of time in a professional setting. I appreciate your response. I know that a spouse's reputation suffers when she skips events, but I believe the previous excuses were good ones. I appreciate her honesty, but I'm just trying to move past the social awkwardness I've accumulated in my mind. Peanuts and Cheese 2021. In that trio, she was a willing partner. By being upset or unwilling to go to a place because of the other 2 partners, you are undermining her choice and agency as a person. What if you wanted her to attend at a wedding where your ex was present? It's not the sexual partner, it's the fact it was a threesome and you are kinda making moral judgments, plus also afraid the 2 guys will think they have something over on you. Is that correct? Oh no, I'd say you're mostly right. However, it's not the act of her choosing to be part of a threesome itself I'm judging. She was single at that time. It's just more difficult because it was a threesome, there are just numerically more ex-sexual partners to be around that feel intimidating. I don't know if it's me feeling there's something over me that makes me nervous. I can accept her past, and ultimately she's my girlfriend now. It's the attitude those two guys hold that could be a problem, as she's told they spread gossip of her encounter to others in the company and use slut-shaming type nicknames for her when they think she's not around. I'd feel uncomfortable and probably emasculated to hear that said about her whilst I was there. Update October 3rd, 2024. Hi everyone, since there was a few update me comments on the original post, and I had a bit of spare time, I thought I could provide an update on the situation I posted about a while back. First of all, I really appreciate all the advice and feedback I received. Both positive and negative, it gave me a lot to think about, and it also the ability to structure some important conversations between my girlfriend and I. To summarize the original post, my girlfriend, F27, and I, M31, have been together for nearly 3 years. She invited me to her company's annual getaway Christmas party this year, which would involve me needing to be socializing with coworkers, including 2 guys she had a threesome with as an ons before we were dating. I wasn't uncomfortable with her sexual history itself, but I felt awkward about attending the party and being in the same table/event with these guys, especially since they still sometimes joke about it, and the use of what I consider disrespectful nicknames for her. On top of that, I was worried there was a possibility I could end up being the butt of these jokes too, which made the idea of attending feel even more uncomfortable. I initially declined to go, which led to some tension and an argument between us. One point I just wanted to clarify based on some of the comments and DMs is that I'm not ashamed of her past at all. Before we started dating, I knew due to being part of an overlapping social group, she had a sex-positive outlook, and she was open about the fact that she had been with around 50 guys. That was never an issue for me. We may well have different experiences, as I've only been with 3 long-term GFS prior, but it wasn't something that held me back from perusing and starting a relationship with her, and not something that has ever been an issue. What made this situation feel different was that I'd be in a room, possibly sat at the same table for dinner, with people who are still actively referencing that past experience. I've never had to deal with that face-to-face, and the idea of those same people making jokes with me in the room, or even about me, made the situation feel more socially uncomfortable. So update. After some deep conversations and listening to each other's point of view, my girlfriend helped me understand her perspective more clearly. She expressed that being the only person from her office without a partner would make her feel awkward and isolated, and possibly lacking social support during the event. She was also surprised and somewhat upset when I changed my mind about attending, as it raised a small doubt that I was viewing this with the idea of shaming her. We also had a constructive conversation around her views on sex positivity. Her confidence in celebrating that part of her life has helped me have a different perspective. She reassured me that any teasing and nicknames at work don't bother her, so why should it bother me? Any terms like slut should not be seen as insults. Instead, something to be proud of, and offer her an ability to own and reclaim a woman's sexuality without shame, especially since men involved in stuff like that are held to a different standard than her. If she can be proud of herself while confidently standing by her choices, then I realized I should wholeheartedly support that as well. Anyway, I've decided to go to the event. I still have some reservations, but I realize it's important to show my support in her work life. I trust her, and if she's comfortable in that environment, I want to be too. At the end of the day, I'm happy of how open and unapologetic she is about her views, and I don't want to let my discomfort, or something as trivial as the possibility of being the target of jokes, get in the way of supporting her fully. We've had some great discussions about careers, sex, relationships, women, and society that have only made our relationship stronger. Thanks again for all the advice, it's been a huge help. Comment where OPAppy has replied, Laximum effort, what kind of assholes would talk about that encounter at work? If you are going to be with her long term, you will need to be at these types of events. If those two make any comments, the easiest is to act like you didn't hear it. Any more than that, you could quip about how she mentioned how shitty they were in bed, or say how you look forward to sharing this story with their next girlfriend. Whatever you do, you cannot appear like you were fazed by it.